Hello again. I felt the need to do a video when we're struggling with these things because it's very easy to kind of say about things when you're not being pulled by them so much. I want to say again about the effect of the energies and the vibrations in the places that we are staying. And this is general for everybody, but I'm going to talk about the specific situation here. The energy where we're staying at the moment is extremely ground down, as you'll probably be able to tell from my demeanour and the way I'm talking, because I keep taking these vibrations on as if it's where I am. Like when we're here, I feel absolutely knackered all the time.
Me too.
I feel very heavy. There's like deep, unmoving grief. There's a lot of feeling of just not having the energy to make your situation any better. There's the feeling of being like broken down or resigned to the idea of life being a struggle. And we get affected by these vibrations within, well, we're aware of them as soon as we come back here, really.
I think, to be honest, a lot of people have that feeling that there's not much you can do about it and stuff, don't they?
Yeah, there is the resignation, but we've realised that the resignation is one of the strongest vibrations that the other energies work through. When a human soul feels very broken down, like sad, like they don't really want to be in their lives, it does allow other energies to move in more. Here at the moment we've been attempting to keep as much awareness as we can. Like, it's a difficult situation at the moment. We're at my mum and dad's place, but my dad's in hospital. He's very, very seriously ill. He's been diagnosed with cancer in a couple of places, so it's a very difficult time for anybody. But on top of that, we have all the spirit attack and all the difficulty with that too. So it definitely isn't an easy time. I can't remember what it was that I was trying to get to. It's like the vibrations here, the beings who affect us and affect me a lot through the family lines, they know that this is a very difficult time for me and for my family, and they know that it's a time like I'm getting very run down because I'm having to do long trips to the hospital to visit each day and to take my mum, and doing what I can to help my family. But the awareness that I have to try and keep as much balance as I can has to be first and foremost. As such, we have stayed pretty much full on raw for the last few weeks, trying to keep as much of our awareness as we possibly can. And I know that if I'd succumbed to what the energies want me to do, which is to comfort eat all sorts of rubbish food, I would have been in a much worse state to cope with the things that have been happening. I guess it's just at times that these earth circumstances come about, and we have to try and work with it, as best we can. Because although the urge is to like run off down south and chase the sun, obviously I love my father, I love my family, and I want to be here at this time. So it's a very difficult balancing act, but we were being aware of how much it matters, the vibrations that you're around and the energies that you're around. Do you want to fill in?
Yeah, the people you're around. Because like when I was younger, I got around the wrong crowd. Often it starts at school, and that really influenced me really quite a bit, because you can see some people either pull you off downhill or some help bring you up, and certain people help bring you up, and it's not really always their fault, due to various things. But it's amazing, like, usually like we don't have loads of energy usually, do we? But we certainly don't feel this heavy all the
Wiped
time.
out.
But it's
Yeah.
like there's patterns wherever we go, and those patterns affect us. As energy makes it very difficult to sleep where we are,
Yeah.
and there's no real reason sometimes for things. You just feel totally different in a different place. But as we're getting more aware and we clean our systems, more of us are going to start noticing this. That we need to be
aware of the energy fields.
Yeah, that we prefer to be in certain areas and we can't tolerate as much other areas that we used to feel alright in because we were numbed out, or
I'm so deeply drained here at the moment. Like the energy is very draining, but like I've always had difficulty with the beings that are riding down my ancestral lines. There's a lot of reptilian energy through my family lines, and that's always been hard. I think I was aware of it even when I was a child, but at the moment, because obviously like my dad's on hardcore painkillers in hospital, he's dosed up on morphine most of the time. So again, when people use drugs, even prescription drugs, there's less control there by the human soul, and it's much more easy for the other beings to work through them. Not even actively. Like my dad, bless him, is beautiful as he always is to the best of his ability, but it just means that other energies have more of a channel to work on through him rather than him having to act in a particular way. It strengthens the energetic holds, and obviously because it's a very difficult time, my mum is very drained as well, so the energies that work through her are stronger. I'm very drained, so the energies that are in me are pushing through more. It makes the whole situation more difficult, and most of this is happening at an unconscious, subconscious level. My parents aren't aware of what's going on energetically. We're very aware of it, much more aware of it than sometimes we'd like to be. So it's like having to attempt to maintain that awareness, to try not to align with the other energies. Like I have to really try not to weaken myself, which is difficult.
A lot of things are suggestions. So if someone says to you, oh, a little bit of what you love does you good, or like, and then you go and buy some chocolate when you've really wanted to not eat chocolate because like chocolate makes you feel rubbish or it's no good for your system. A lot of the sayings that are passed down have been manipulated by these energies, especially ones like you've just got to get on with it. You can't let these things bother you. All this stuff is programming.
I've got to be strong for other people. Guilt is used a lot. Like my brother today, he'd not seen my dad for a little while because he's been away. And when he came in, I could see that part of him was in shock, part of him felt a bit manic, and he wanted to break down and cry in his truth. But he had to try and put the smile on. He was trying to do what he thought was best for my dad and for my mum. So,
but all these things are set up really in childhood, a lot of it really, by these energies to stop us processing and stop us being just true and authentic.
That's the thing,
human
it's
beings.
about being true to our soul. Our soul doesn't really want to be here when we aren't honouring it. If we're living by programs and controlled behaviours instead of from our truth, the soul backs off really.
We want freedom in our soul, like freedom, and I mean freedom to be yourself, just freedom, space.
Yeah.
But like, as through the years,
duty and stress.
If you're around people who've got heavy grief and whatever, you can feel that strain on you. And some of those people, they might be like taking drugs or, just comfort eating all the time. So you'll see that on the outside, sometimes they can look as if they're all right because they've just dosed up on the sugar or something, But
There's
then
so much
underneath,
of that.
like they don't show you the other side, and that's what's been going on here. These entities have been deliberately making it so we only show a facade, which means that nobody gets to see the truth. And the thing is for this planet to move forward, it needs to be a revolution of truth, and what's actually real, not illusion and denial and all this stuff, because that's what's destroying the planet and making us go down the paths that aren't healthy for us.
It's also, I've had my attention drawn to like how strong the currents are in different places, because obviously like my dad's been in hospital for between 2 and 3 weeks now, and so I'm going into a hospital environment every day, and like I always intend like protection, intention not to take anything in or on, but still in those environments the currents are very, very strong. Most of the people, and I don't mean the patients, I mean the patients obviously are unwell, but most of the people just visiting as well are haggard or run down, like I'm looking at the moment. And the currents just really are strong. Like the other day he was moved to a bigger hospital to do a different procedure, and like there's a couple of different coffee shops in there and everybody's drinking coffee, and like I ended up getting myself a decaf coffee for the first time in, oh god, it must be a couple of years. And it was only afterwards that I got my clarity back, and it was like, what the hell am I doing? Why on earth have I just had something that I know is absolute crap for me and my system? I don't normally have milk, I stay away from dairy. The coffee itself tasted, it was really strong even though it's decaf, and it's so grating on the system. So because I was run down, because I was emotionally drained, worrying whether my dad was going to survive a procedure they were doing on him that day, like my awareness level was down. There was a lot of strong currents of people acting in a particular way, and so when the suggestion came in to have the decaf coffee, there was just stupid like reasoning about that was the only thing I could get. There wasn't any herbal teas, I didn't have any water on me. I thought I was getting the best option, but it's not a decision that I would have made if my truth and my awareness was intact better.
A lot of it's programs, isn't it? It's like around us there's programs behaviour. Of course, in one family the program would be one way, like we laugh a lot, and like, so around that family you feel like you're supposed to laugh a lot. So the programs are particular to different families and groups of people and stuff. But in this time we're learning to kind of try and follow what we actually want to do rather than what the program is, and it's very difficult because if other people might be like, well, that's not really acceptable or whatever, but really we need to start tolerating other people. But a lot of us are so afraid of being judged or our inner children feeling like we're not liked or anything like that, that it's like we're afraid to be different and be ourselves, sort of thing.
All of that stuff is quite programmed in survival things again as well, because we know as a child that if we're, well, it's quite a deep primitive level in us, that if we aren't accepted by the tribe, it's likely that we'll be outcast, and our chances of survival then are much less. So we know that it is better and safer for us to have the approval of our parents, our family group, our peer group, because our chances of survival go up. But the difficult thing is that we can end up compromising our soul out of existence for that survival need. And the beings who control us are very aware of the survival drives, and it's usually the survival level that they work on. So
they're also very aware of using our love against us.
Oh yeah.
So like if you've got a pull for a particular family member to try and make them better, and you've got a cord of attachment, that cord of attachment will be used, because basically you can easily like forget yourself in order to try and be there for someone else, or your family member or whatever,
And those things really are. It's very, very difficult, those things.
Because it's anything that drains your system is what these beings are aligning for, really.
Yeah. So it's like at the moment in this situation, I know that I'm sort of semi-playing into their hands, because to be here for my family is proving, well, it's extremely draining. You know, I want to be here
And this
because
will
I
be
love them so much.
If you saying this, like, I bet you that like a lot of people can
relate
resonate with that.
to,
Like they're like, you know,
where you
like,
know a situation isn't very healthy for you, but because you love somebody, you'll stay within it. You'll stay doing something that you know isn't in your own best interests and your health's best interests. But again, there's all different pulls, isn't there? You know, if I went with what was best for me and probably got out of the country, I'd then have to live with the worry, the fear about what was happening back home, and the guilt if my dad passed on while I wasn't here. You know, so a lot of the time we can end up juggling different influences and different feelings, and just trying to find the best pathway through a situation as we possibly can.
but yeah, there's that stuff to do with like the families bickering and stuff. And what I was saying about like, because for a lot of people the family environment isn't a peaceful or happy environment, because it's said, and I do feel this too, that these energies use the closest people to you to affect you, you know. So it'll be like, because they've had years to work through, say, me and my dad, for instance, they've had years to figure out what's the things that Ricky's hurt by and what's the ones that Dad's hurt by, and how can we play it off.
How can we keep triggering that? How can we keep rubbing that painful wound on?
And I know it sounds really negative, all this, but unfortunately this is what happens. You know, there's a lot of positive things that happen too, and we need to bring light to the positive,
and we will do videos about that as well.
We need to bring light to the positive and the negative things going on, because then it's not a negative if you can triumph it, you know, and actually, but we are aware of the families and like the bickering that goes on, the dramas. And I don't know, a lot of people may have noticed, or especially if I say this now, that the dramas that happen are the same thing every time. Like with my mum and my nan, for instance, Nan will leave and she'll leave the house and go off in her car all upset, you know, as if whatever, she's not wanted or loved or whatever. And it's like the same patterns, our emotional traumas. And I don't know many people who don't have them, because we have emotional traumas. Emotional traumas are being used against us. And it's like, yes, we do have our own emotional stuff, and we do have our own anger, and we have our own shadow self and all that. But these energies, as we've understood it, are deliberately triggering our traumas.
They provoke the different feelings, they provoke the different triggers, because they know that they can ride on those frequencies. So if they can push somebody into a childhood hurt or a childhood resentment, for example, they can channel through on that resentment vibration, and they can often make the dynamics between the resentful person and the person they're resentful at much worse and much stronger. So like the person being used might only have like 5% resentment, that it could have blown over quite easily, but they'll stoke it and they'll up it to 50, 60, 70, 80%, whatever they can get away with. So that's why it is important to do our own inner work, so that there isn't the channel lines that they can use, but it's being aware that a lot of what we feel has been blown out of proportion by the other energies, and it will feel like your own vibration, it'll feel like your own feeling, but it's them stoking the anger or the upset or the shame or the depression. You know, there's so much of the things we're all feeling that aren't actually our truth and aren't all ours. You know, there's just a speck of something that's ours, because that's all they need. All they need is a tiny bit of resonance to be able to work with, through, and affect people. So if you have got your own bit of grief still inside, they can ride on that. If you've got a little bit of shame somewhere inside, they can ride on that. If you're unhappy about something, they can ride on that.
So it does help for us to be like I believe in Lemuria or Atlantis,
Mm.
that we were more open with how we felt. It doesn't mean we had to be open with everybody, but we were more
Transparency.
and so that transparency meant that these energies couldn't weave lies between each person.
Yeah.
You know, what do you mean? What are you saying about me? Are you saying that I'm
Yeah.
whatever?
It's like
You know,
nothing.
I didn't say
nothing
that. No,
was
you
hidden.
said
Yeah.
whatever. What?
Yeah, communication breakdown is a really big one.
And all that
We do
stuff.
that a
Like
lot.
we've seen that. You know, I mean, for God's sake, I've seen these beings like going crazy, like wanting Katie's dad to eat cheese because they know that cheese is really clagging on the system, and it really, he was addicted to it. You know, so it's not just like somebody's having a bit of cheese.
Yeah.
I think the cheese has got a big issue, but
Yeah.
so I could see like 3 of them around him, like kind of egging him on. You know,
Yeah.
we see the behaviours of these beings through people like that, like egging someone on to get really
It's getting
pissed to
clearer,
the point where they
isn't
get
it?
paralytic or something. You
Mm.
know, where they get really. Yeah, what was
Yeah.
been happening to us is this has been slowly getting more and more clearer over time to the point where it's banging our face that
Where
like
you can tend to see when people are being overshadowed. You can tend to see like when they're being used to affect other people. Like especially like we can feel when other people are being used to affect us to
So-
like knock our awareness.
so it's like for me now it's like the entire modern world is seeming quite insane. And I know there's some great reasons for certain things like technology and all this stuff and whatever, but it's no good when we're not in balance because we're falling asleep.
Not
like
many
using
people
this
will
stuff.
be in balance at all.
Like humanity is not coming from its soul and its purpose and its spirit. Humanity is coming from either like childhood wounds programs, you know, trying to be a good person, what society says they should be, you know, and even people who believe that they're free are often still being, you know, like they're feeling, yeah, but they wouldn't realize that they're actually just free in a little part, like, oh, I'm getting to do, this is my job, or I'm getting to do whatever, but they forget that the whole other part of their life, you know, but it's like humanity's kind of reached a point where like we're kind of okay if we can just have like a coffee after work, if we can just have that little bit of time watching TV.
We don't realise how much we're compromising with the other energies.
Yeah, the compromise thing, yeah. But
and that is happening a lot.
I truly believe when people are following their truth and rid themselves of the dark energies that are affecting them and connect to their soul, that the planet will change and we will be creating a more balanced, harmonious planet, which is a really good thing.
It's also something kind of carrying on from what Riki was saying before about, you know, like other spaces that we've come from or other times, when the transparency is more there, everything is extremely clear then, you know, there's no hidden stuff, there's no confusion, there's no other energies riding on the vibrations, we can all see much more clearly. But in this third dimension on Earth, with the things that are going on, other energies are corrupting the communication and the psychic pathways between people. Like naturally in the other places, we're all living in a space of just natural telepathy. It's just as it is, you know, we're all very aware and clear and open, and there's no need to hide. But in this reality, that isn't working so well for us. I mean, the telepathy is all still there, but other energies are using it too. It's like having the radio waves all muddied, and like we find, like when we go away just together, we have hardly any trouble between us at all. But like when we come here, it's like there's communication breakdowns, there's just like a load of rubbish going on all the time.
Sometimes we fall in the patterns of what your family do.
Yeah, like as if we could almost even be like bickering or whatever, and like we don't argue in general because there's no point in doing so. But that is the vibrations here are very difficult. There's always been communication breakdowns for my family, you know, like one person will think we're doing one thing, the other will think we're doing the other. They'll both think that the
Yeah.
other person understands what they're doing, but it's like it's
what
like
we
the
said.
tracks aren't lining up, you know, the communication pathways don't line up properly.
It's what we said about entering someone else's game,
Yeah.
because someone else had said that recently,
Mm.
and I think that's really, you know, that kind of sums it up. When you enter someone else's game,
You get
if you
caught
go
by
in
their rules,
a
their
place full of
ways.
pot smokers, you know, it's going to be quite hard for you to hold your ground around that, you know. Whether you like that or not, I don't know, but you know, like for me, I don't want to be around that, because
Yeah.
my soul doesn't want to ground when there's drug use around and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It doesn't like that. But it's a big learning process, all this stuff, isn't it? And we're reaching a kind of,
I think at times, like, we end up bringing ourselves back into this situation because at some level we're wanting to be as aware of it as we possibly can. I mean, it is, like, for me, obviously, like, and everybody else, really, like, our family dynamics are like the hardest training ground for us all, because nobody can affect you as much as your family, really. And when you go back into the family patterns, the family scripts, the family web, you're quite profoundly affected by it, unless you've got really hardcore, which, you know, I haven't yet, you know, I'm not there yet. But the awareness comes stronger each time, you know, you become more aware of it, and like trying to hold the space, trying to still hold as much of the love vibration as possible within these environments is very important, but it's also very difficult, you know, because if you're having stuff throwing hooks at you all the time to try and hook you into reactants, it's very difficult. And trying to just hold that space and just gently kind of unhooking yourself is kind of what I try to do, but it definitely isn't that easy.
But I do remember that we are pulled towards people and situations and places that aren't good for us a lot of the time, especially, you know, the more weaker a person you are in your, you know, in your strength. I mean, like physically, not, I know all of our souls are strong, but the more weaker you are in your energy body, it's like you can easily get pulled. Like for me, it took me years to try, and we still get people who smoke, like, you know, I mean, weed and that, like it's like the energies in them can sense that we have been a smoker too. It's like they're very clever, and I feel they can sense it, and it's like we get pulled into the realm of people who aren't good for us, and I feel that happens.
Yeah.
Like these energies know what's good for us and what's not, and we have to start to learn what is good for us. At the moment, for me, I just know it's like nature, clean air, nature, sun. You know, like these are things which are protective, and we would be protecting each other in general. That's why all the families have been split up.
Yeah.
Like, you know, we're allowed to talk over the internet now, and like they kind of will love that, because it's like humans aren't properly connecting. I know we can connect to other people.
Isolated, really.
Yeah, it's in our closeness and working together that we gain strength. Yeah.
Should we sort of leave it there for now? My hand's falling off.
Yeah.
I think basically, like, I wanted to do a video, like, when we're having to deal with stuff, like when it's not easy, because like this is the reality. I feel like everybody who is trying to be on a true path will have times and places that are very challenging, and what I've been going through with this is really, really hard, you know, because I love my family so much, so deeply, and what's happening at the moment, the thought of losing my dad is breaking my heart, you know, like especially for younger aspects of me, and trying to keep a wiser soul aspect present who understands that it's okay, that it is okay, is kind of what I'm trying to do.
It's like we need the balance, don't we? So that you can,
so that you can actually process the grief from the other parts as well, because otherwise everything is just like a live wire, just thrashing about all over, and it doesn't get the chance to move and be healthy and be healing. And like, my highest wish at the moment is to help this experience. If my dad is going to transition at this time, I want it to be as pure and clean and true as possible, meaning like for myself, for my mum, for my dad, and for my brother. And that wish is up against like the reality of everybody carrying their own attachments that have got their own ideas, and just like general energetic disturbance in these places. So yeah, it's a challenging time, and we'll put this out there in that vein because all of us are in this life experience together. I don't think anybody gets an easy ride, no matter what it may seem like. I don't think anybody gets an easy ride. So this goes out with a lot of love to everybody, to everyone, whatever's going on your path. And sorry if it's not the most uplifting of videos, but it's a true video, so I hope there might be something vaguely uplifting somewhere in there, even if it's only the idea that we all are in this together. And it is those feelings of grief or fear or powerlessness and things like this. All these things are our shared humanity, along with the good things. And remembering that the beauty and the truth is there too is helpful. Lots of love.